kinds of powerful novels that you can read that are similar. I would recommend to you, if you're interested, All Quiet on the Western Front. This is one of those novels that's going to try and take you inside the mind of what it's like to be there on the battlefront, trying to come to terms with that experience. Finally, 3B. The way you relate to this story. Many students have said this story is not very difficult to relate to personally. It's just painful to relate to this story personally. Maybe for some of us, we have had people in our life who were forced to have to be in military conflict and fighting. Maybe even losing someone we love in military conflict and fighting. A number of students who, for example, have sat inside of 303 have gone on to have to fight, and some even die in conflict in the military theater. Notice over on page 813 that we have and even on 812, that we have Tim O'Brien's insights. Let's just look at these for a second here. On page 812 to start with, the first insight that's provided. In these sentences, the very ones that are to the right there, I try to humanize the young enemy soldier, his clothing, his posture, the unhurried and slightly distracted way he walks up the trail. The challenge is to make the character of the Viet Cong soldier someone who is real, as opposed to, for example, think about this, when we play video games, and they're shooting games especially, and we're in wartime, we don't have any sense of who it is that we're shooting and killing on the other side. Notice O'Brien's story tries to make the character of the Viet Cong soldier somehow real. Let's look at the author's insight on 813. The sentence, "and it will always be that way," for my money is among the best I've ever written. Only 7 very simple words, yet for me the sentence carries the weight of eternity, the permanent and inescapable horror of war. Right? Let's look at that paragraph again on page 813, right to the left of that insight. It was not a matter of live or die. There was no real peril. Almost certainly the young man would have passed by, and it will always be that way. The compelling reality that we have to live with the choices that we've made. Of course, this is another 3B observation. What in your life is something you've done that you have to live with? There's no undoing it. There's no changing it. There's no imagining that you didn't do it. You are aware that maybe it caused pain, both to yourself and to somebody else possibly. And you can't undo that. How do you come to terms with that? This story, of course, suggesting maybe writing about it is a compelling way to do that. The last author's insight is on page 813. As the narrator imagines the young man continuing up the trail to where it bends back into the fog, he's also imagining that the ambush never occurred and the dead young man has a long and full life ahead of him in a future that will never be. In other words, what if you hadn't done the thing that you're somewhat sad that you did? How would things have turned out? Of course, the reality is that's not the real world, is it? Right? We have to live in the world that we live in. And that world involves having to accept that there's challenges, things we've done that we cannot undo. Well, there you go, an introduction to Tim O'Brien's Ambush. Thank you.